Hi, and welcome to my Marianismo, Unburdening Myself from the Roots to the Bloom. My name is Cynthia Perez, and I am the owner of Rooted in Reflection. And this work is really spirit work that I've been led to. I'm going to get into how that has been, but this specific pre-recorded video has been a long time coming. People have been asking me to do this for a few years, and I don't know what was holding me back. It felt like these conversations really are supposed to be in small groups, in person. To me, it's very sacred work. And I've been so lucky to have been able to hold space over the past few years in this very delicate way, speaking about Marianismo. And as we go into it, it has made so much profound impact, not just for self-identifying females, women, but also self-identifying males and the children, the adult children of Marianismo and Machismo, right? And so this recording is really just to hold space, to be able to have a private container if this is a topic that you've been wanting to do more work around, but maybe you just want to do it from your own space, and I honor that. And so we're going to get into what exactly is Marianismo. What do I mean by my Marianismo? And how can we do the work of unburdening ourselves? And so I want to thank you for taking this invitation. So first, what is Marianismo? I did not create the word Marianismo. It was actually coined in 1973 by political scientist Evelyn Stevens in her essay Marianismo, the other face of machismo. So this term really was used to describe the cultural behavior and attitudes that we have been taught based on the Spanish conquest. Okay, it comes from the word Maria, which refers specifically to the Virgin Mary, and it's intended for us to have learned the female counterpart of machismo. In order to be supportive of the male, we had to do what the Virgin Mary would do, is basically be forgiving, be self-sacrificing, be for others, be of service. And so really this is rooted in Catholicism and colonialism. That's why when I say Marianismo, I could call this my mother wounds, but I want to be very intentional because this is mother wound work, but from a colonial aspect, specifically from Catholicism and the Spanish conquest. So if you have roots in your lineage of a people or a land that was colonized by Spanish, so this could be islands, right? Caribbean islands, Philippine islands, Guam, Mexico, parts of South America, Puerto Rico, just so many lands. It doesn't necessarily have to be all of Mexico. It's really more of what the colonization, how it has impacted our collective way of moving and how we see the role of women and how we shift our behavior and attitudes to keep this going, this Marianismo going. And why is this so important for me? Well, I truly believe that this has become a value. It is a value. It has been pushed on us through colonialization, that it is a value to be subservient, to be a woman of spiritual faith that is so deeply rooted that it stands firmly more in the church than in her own inner knowing. And this has become a behavior, a way of showing up, but this has also really impacted our energy, our chakras. And on another level, if we talk about epigenetics, which we get into, we are now changing the way our epigenetics shows up. So this could look like epigenetics that are humble, that shrink really quickly. Our epigenetics is our protector gene, this gene that has been conditioned. It's not something that never changes, like our hair color or our eye color, right? That is what we were given. Epigenetics is adaptable, it's moldable to the conditions, our ecosystems, and how we have to show up. So consider if we have been conditioned to be Marianista or to fall in line with the behavior that machismo pushes on us without holding any discernment. What can that do for us? Well, not only does it distance ourselves from other people relationship wise by overdoing, overgiving, or the opposite, being cold and numb, it also distances us from our own true self, our own true knowing, and our body knowledge. And if we go deeper into that, thinking about it has made women physically sick. Okay, I started this work working in healthcare, and I started to notice that we had an epidemic of diabetes in women of color, in people of the global majority. And as I started to focus more on Latinas with diabetes, I found an article talking about postpartum depression and Marianismo linking depression in women. And that got me to think about epigenetics, which got me to think about diabetes in so many Latinas and how our epigenetics could be shaped to these illnesses. If you're more interested in kind of like the physical energy harm of our body, I also host a Marianismo workshop that talks about our healing our energy body, which is very fascinating. But really bringing this back to thinking about how if we are showing up inauthentically, if we are showing up a different way than what our spirit wants, but demanding that our body keep showing up to work, whether we're tired, keep showing up inauthentic of what we really want, keep being a people pleaser even though we want to scream and rage, it is producing illnesses in our organs. It shoots this cortisol to our organs, and if we don't get it out, it festers in there. And then we call it the way that we are. We call it what we've inherited. And really, we can reverse this. We can reverse this in so many nuanced behaviors. But what I love about unburdening ourselves is the best medicine is ancestral medicine. The best medicine is, what did my ancestors do in joy, in what health, in their wellness, in their celebration? What did they do when things were going so hard for them? Because they did stuff. They weren't just helpless victims all the time. And I'm talking 7 generations back on both sides. What did they do? And really allowing ourselves to feel deserving enough to go back to that, even if we don't know our lineage or genetics, but kind of imagining those lands and what we know of the elements, of the soil, of the temperature, of the foods, and allowing ourselves to go, okay, what can I know about myself by exploring? And allowing yourself to take the medicinal ancestral knowledge, which could be dance or cooking or being at the beach. We're going to get into that. So Marianismo is really, in a nutshell, is a way of showing up that has been socially conditioned in not just Latino American culture, but in colonized culture that is specifically rooted in Catholicism. So it was a way to be, if you want to serve God as a woman, you do what the Virgin Mary would do. You check up on them. You make sure all the men are fed so that they could be of service to God, and you are the assistant to those men. And this really allows a lot of space for abuse, for a life lived for other people. This really sets us up for shrinking and humility that is causing illness. So what do I mean when I say my Marianismo? Well, my Marianismo is really something that I say in Rooted in Reflection. I've been saying this for about 5 years now, because when I was talking about it with friends, I wanted to share my own experiential findings. And my experiential findings were, oh my gosh, my Marianismo was acting up so much that I took it out on my partner. And I raged, and now I feel bad about it. But I realize now that my Marianismo was feeling, ding, ding, it was feeling unseen, it was feeling rejected. And so it started to become a word I would use to explain what it was showing up like in me and what it caused me to do. Push someone away, rage on someone, cancel all my plans. And so when I say my Marianismo, I'm not saying it's yours. I'm claiming it as mine. But in that, it also is like a reclaiming of the word, of saying like, yeah, that was my Marianismo. I'm acknowledging that. So if you feel at any point, as your awareness of Marianismo in your family goes, it's okay, in my eyes anyway, to say like, this was my Marianismo. Wow. And that's how we can kind of center ourselves to the root. Why did I show up like that? And really, if anything, allowing ourselves to name it in a way that feels seen to us, I think that that's a really beautiful way to start. So if you have not already, I invite you to take a look at the video included here of Marianismo Roots to Bloom. There is a 60-minute video just on this graph that I created, and really talking about how Marianismo is not just something we show up as today. It's actually rooted in Spanish colonization, patriarchy, Catholicism, white supremacy, oppression of indigenous and African peoples, but also forced displacement and genocide. So if you're feeling sometimes this deep overwhelm, this deep loss and abandonment, consider that you are now really feeling the root of your Marianismo. So I honor this time right now to take a moment, if you haven't already, to watch this video on the Marianismo Roots to Bloom Wounds. And then when you're ready, continue on to the next video for the other part of this workshop. Thank you so much.